Hello and welcome to another episode of Everything and Nothing. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying life. I hope you're making the most of every day, of every opportunity. Okay, so today I want to talk about ecosystems. I want to talk about ecosystems and I want to talk about the importance of alignment in an ecosystem and what I mean by that. So really it's about, this is something that I've seen and that I've noticed in several organizations, in several even family dynamics. Okay, but today I'm gonna focus and I'm gonna give it an example more about at the workplace, because it's one that most people will connect with, and most people will say, oh yeah, I've seen that happen, or I'm living that right now. So what I'm talking about is, it doesn't matter if the leader is ready and the team is not. Or it doesn't matter if the team is ready and the leader is not. If one part of the ecosystem is misaligned, everything tends to slow down. And I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by that. So I have been around ecosystems where the leader of the team, even the leader of the organization, is very innovative. It's very creative. It's all about lean processes and wants to make transformation happen. They actually want to put action into these ideas or these new processes that they see in place. They look at the technology and they think, we can work with that. We can leverage that. Let's go and implement it. Let's go test it out. Let's go try it. So I have seen people that have that mentality and that have that courage and that bravery and that clarity. And it doesn't work when as much passion and as much clarity as they have, the team around them doesn't have that. What the team around them tends to have is more concern, fear, worry, doubts. They want everything to be explained to a T. They want everything to be mapped out with exactly what they're expecting things to be, which in innovation we know, or in transformation situations, we know that's not how it works. The way it works is we go out, we try it out, we observe, and we quickly iterate to implement the changes, to make the things work best for everyone involved in the ecosystem, right? And so I've noticed that quite a lot. And the other thing I have noticed is the opposite of that. I have seen teams, a whole team that is very passionate about staying in motion, about implementing the changes, about improving the processes, about just getting things done. They have that mindset. They have that, again, that courage, that bravery, that clarity. They have that fearlessness. We're going to go out, we're just going to make it work, and it's going to be amazing. And then the leader of that team holds everyone back, because now they're the ones that are concerned, that are worried, that are holding the keys to move forward. They're also potentially doubting themselves, doubting their abilities, doubting their strategy. A lot of the times they don't even actually have a strategy in place. And they want to be too cautious. They want to be too cautious to a point that they hold everyone back. They hold the inspiration, they hold the momentum, they hold the creativity. And what tends to happen is it just doesn't move. So when we have this misalignments, clearly everything slows down. And in some cases, it dies completely, meaning everything stays the same, everything remains the same. And when we think about it, when somebody is suggesting a transformation, a shift, it's most likely because they're missing out on something. Their revenue is dropping, people are leaving the company more often, So there's clearly a need. Competitors are coming in and, taking over your clients. So there's clearly a need for a shift. There's clearly a need for a transformation. However, as I talk about often, when the human side of innovation or the human side of ourselves kicks in overdrive, and there is a concern, a worry, a fear, then the whole thing just doesn't move. And I've seen that happen over and over and over in many examples, whether it's, as I said, a team or the leader, an organization. I've even seen it at home. I've had clients that come in and they want to talk about designing a life that they love, which includes more financial stability, more freedom for them to spend time with their family members. However, if the spouse is concerned about making a shift, making any kind of change in their lifestyle, for example, let's say one of the spouses says, I really need to make a jump and go out and fulfill my purpose, go do what I am here to do, which means potentially leaving the job that I have. And the other spouse is saying, no, you can't, because that is what keeps us going. And it's too scary. But the other spouse is saying, no, but really, I have the skills, I have the abilities, I have enough knowledge, I can go do this. We can just have a strategic plan to get us there for that transition, and we can be better off. And many times, the other spouse may not be comfortable with that. So even then, even at home, there is a misalignment of sorts, right? And when those misalignments happen, nothing moves forward, and resentment kicks in, frustration, and we all know what happens when all of that starts being active in a team, in a collaborative space, whether it's the leader and the team members toward the leads, or at home between spouses. So looking at this topic, let's see, I'm going to put it out there for you to reflect, and let's see where you're at. What is your working environment like? Is it a place where you can feel that you are in alignment with your team members and your leader? For example, are you perhaps the leader in the team and you are confident, you are aware, you have a process in mind, you have a vision, a long-term vision of how to get this department, even the organization, to a next level that the organization keeps sharing they want to achieve, this long-term goal. And perhaps you have that very clear in your mind, the next steps, how it's going to go. You have even mapped out the areas where you can potentially fail, because you already know that there's a potential for improvement in some areas of the process. However, the team keeps holding you back. The team keeps getting frustrated when you introduce the process, when you introduce these are the next steps, this is how we're going to move forward. Perhaps the team is putting up some resistance. Perhaps the team is saying, no, we're not sure. And instead, every time that you show up with, hey, this is the plan, this is how we're going to move forward, they come to you with question after question after question, which of course we want to welcome questions and communication in a team. However, if that communication is coming from a place of resistance, it does the opposite, right? It's not really an invitation for a dialogue, for expansion. It's more an invitation for barriers, for things that are going to stop, because people want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to stay with, this is how we've always done it. We've always done it this way. There's no need for us to change. And even though you have evidence to say, but look how much loss we've had in the last quarters, these team members will tend to say it's for other reasons. And they'll come up with other excuses, other evidence that may or may not really exist, that tends to come out in long-winded answers and conversations that doesn't really take you anywhere. but it keeps you busy and it keeps you talking. And that's a misuse of this value, of this core value of communication, because of course in a team you want to welcome the communication, you want to invite the team members to express themselves. However, sometimes the team members, when they're hesitant and frustrated, they will misuse that value and sabotage the whole plan. And that tends to lead to drag on momentum. They'll continue to say, well, we'll get on board when you do this. And then you bring them that. Oh, well, now we found another fault in that. We'll get on board when you bring this and this and that. And then you bring this and this and that. But it's never enough. So they just keep dragging it and dragging it and dragging it. So perhaps that's something that you see yourself in. The other example is the opposite. When the team is completely aligned, the whole team is ready, they're aware of where they're at, the current state, they're aware of where they want to go, they're aware of what needs to happen, and actually the team itself is actually working together. They communicate with one another, they have a whole project plan, they have a whole process in place, they're trying things out, they keep doing research, and they keep coming to the leader saying, hey, look, we have this, we've done the research, we understand this, these are the next sensible steps to take, this is how we're going to operate to maximize our resources, our time, our budgets to achieve this long-term goal in a timely manner. However, the leader just keeps hesitating. And either they hesitate and they don't actually answer a question, they don't actually take into consideration the next steps. You keep providing them with information and they just hold it, but they don't actually respond with actions. They respond with more questions. Or the other thing that I see often is they reply with a lot of control. They want to take over. Okay, let me take a look at it. I'll let you know what I think. Yeah, I see that. Let me just look at those steps and let me just redefine them. And so what they end up doing is they taking all the control of the whole process, of the whole steps. And the sad thing is they take control, but they don't take action, which is a very different thing. I can take control over a whole conversation and still not do anything about it. I can take control over a mapped blueprint and still not take action. I can take control of a whole process or system that's been designed and redefined, a whole project plan, and still not take action. And that's what tends to happen when the leader is not aligned. And what tends to happen in those situations is there is a complete loss of energy in the team. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to be part of an ecosystem where you're constantly pouring and you're constantly doing and you're visualizing and you're planning out and you're putting all of your skills and your abilities into that long-term goal and nothing is getting done. And you keep pushing the deadline. We're going to have a deadline to launch this thing by January. January comes and goes. Okay, February comes and goes. March comes and goes. First quarter is completely gone. And the leader's not doing anything. And that is so draining and so, it just kills not only momentum, but it kills creativity. It kills desire to even show up to work. Because there are many team members that are ready to go. They're in it, they're committed, and nothing comes out. Nothing comes out. So when we take a look at the deeper truth of these situations is the alignment is not hierarchical at all. It's really relational. That's the kind of alignment that we're looking for. And when that is not in place, when there is no alignment in the department, in the organization, in the household, we tend to see delayed decisions, lost revenue. Here's a big one: burnout. And quiet, very, very quiet disengagement. So when that is happening, if you reflect and you think about your space and where you're at, if you find yourself in one of these two examples, and you're wondering why your strategy is not working, and you're wondering why it keeps being delayed, if you're wondering why the strategy is not giving you the results or delivering those outcomes that you put out, you start to realize that you don't actually have a strategy problem. What you actually have is an alignment problem. And most people are either unaware or they're in denial. When they're unaware, they just keep banging their head on the wall, thinking about the same thing. We must be missing something. We must be missing something in the strategy. Maybe the leader doesn't understand it. Maybe we need to convince him a little bit more. Maybe we need to give her more details. If you're in the other way around, you're thinking, okay, as a leader, maybe my team is not quite understanding what I'm trying to say. Maybe it's not clear enough. Maybe I'm not speaking their language. Maybe it's too much pressure. Maybe I'm missing something in the bigger scheme of strategies. Maybe I'm not considering one of their perspectives. All of those maybes are not the real problem. The real problem is you're not aware that maybe you are not aligned with the team, or maybe you realize that the team is not aligned with the leader, right? The other thing is denial. Plain and simple. People deny it. It can't be that we're perfect, we're a great team, I'm a great leader, I'm all about innovation, I'm all about lean strategies, I'm all about transformation. Are you though? Seriously, is your team really at that place? Everyone in the team. I'm not saying 80% of the team members, I'm saying everyone. Are they all on board? If you are in the team area, my question to you is your team leader really what they say they are? Is she really supportive? Is she really willing to take the risk? Is she really open to talk about how to make this risk a calculated risk? Is she open to those conversations? Is he open to these conversations? Right? So the question is really then, how do we shift that? How do we make it work? And we go back to the basics. And I say this very, very often, and I talk about it in the book, No Risk, No Fun, the importance of safety and communication. If these topics that are so sensitive are being avoided, are being neglected, are being ignored, you're missing a safe container. You're missing a safe, structured communication style. Maybe you're leaving someone behind. This is a time where you make an assessment, about what is actually happening. This is a great opportunity to understand where in the ecosystem do we have a gap, a hole, an outdated belief, mentality. And so it requires work. It requires, first of all, awareness, acceptance, and then taking action. And if you're not able to take action, whether you're the leader or the team, it requires honesty to say, we need support. We need someone who can help us figure out where are we at currently? What is blocking us? Because many times when we're so close to the situation, we all know this, when we're so close to the situation, we don't see it. We're missing something. And it helps to have someone come in to help us evaluate the whole ecosystem, the whole situation. And then see where are the gaps, where are the challenges, where are the barriers, and how do we align ourselves again? Where are the differences? A lot of the times it's just about difference. I've seen many teams where, remember, they're all human, including yourself. So one of the humans in this whole ecosystem is going through something, a transition in their own personal life, perhaps. Or they're going through a moment where they're remembering a past experience similar to this one where everything failed. And we have to have those conversations to support that team member or that person in the ecosystem to move through that fear, to move through that uncomfortable barrier, to make it and keep going. So Yeah, the human side of us, the human side of innovation, the human side of an organization, all of these things. This is a great opportunity to start assessing, where are you in these examples that I gave? Where's your team? Where's the organization? What kind of support, what resources do you have around you that can come in and support you do this kind of assessment? That's the kind of stuff that you want to look for. Because I'm going to tell you something. This type of behavior, this type of dynamic is going to exist over and over and over. So there's no point in avoiding it or pretend like it's not there. The best thing is to acknowledge that it's there, accept that that's part of our humanness, and figure out a way to manage it when it shows up. Not if, but when it shows up. All right. So just remember, I'm going to leave you with this question. Where is misalignment being tolerated in your ecosystem? Where? And what is it costing you? That's all I have for today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your moment in time. And as always, until next time.